Oh, we haven't started. Okay, let's go
Okay.
to. Are we starting now?
Okay, let's start.
I thought you already saw. I saw recording somewhere.
Now, now we record.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Today we want to.
So
You tell the people don't use Notepad plus plus anymore, right? You said this on
yes,
Kscope 17 and said you shouldn't use this anymore.
that's
And
correct.
and you always say yeah, use Atom for whatever reason. So
Yes.
I installed it. It was pretty easy to install, I have to admit. If you go, where's the web page, by the way, to
It's
install it?
go to atom.io, but even easier, you can just Google Atom Editor.
Hold on. What? Atom. Everything is very slow here. Maybe because of the recording.
Yeah.
I hate that. And this toolbar is overlaying. I need to stop one recording at least. Actually, I'm trusting more my own recording. So let me stop the recording
Okay.
of Zoom.
By the way, in keeping with the theme, I've kept my. I saw Vincent did this in his hoodie, so I decided to wear mine today.
What? What do you mean? The theme?
Vincent wore a sweatshirt during his recording, I think.
I don't know.
So I'm trying to keep with
But
the
at
theme.
least he had in the back side he had Insum as a logo, which you don't.
That is true. I've got plenty of some stuff around, but no, not on my desk. I cleaned it. I'm trying to run a clean office now. Here.
Okay, here we are. That's the homepage
Yeah.
of Atom Editor. And why, just in a few sentences, why would you suggest to use Atom Editor instead of other editors? For
So
example,
there's three main
Notepad++.
editors I'd recommend. It's Atom, Sublime Text. Jorge's gonna love me saying that, or Microsoft Visual Code, or they call it like MSC. And the reason why is you can just develop so much faster than some of the legacy things like Notepad++. And I'll show you some of those features and why they're so important. And the other thing too is it's really community driven, so there's a lot of packages out there, and that's what all the developers are using. So they've shifted away from Notepad++ into these tools.
And there is also a Windows version, I guess.
Yeah, so Atom has Windows. I think obviously there's Mac. I think there's a Linux version. I can't remember. It's really just it's an Electron app running off of Chrome browser behind the scenes. So in theory, it should be. I'm pretty sure it runs on Linux as well.
So this is an Electron app like Slack, right? The desktop
Yes.
version of Slack, and like you did a presentation at Kscope 16, I guess, where you showed how
Yeah.
to make a desktop Apex application with Electron.
That's correct. And Electron was actually created because of Atom. So when Atom was created, they created the Electron platform, and then they split it out once they realized what they had.
Okay, so install is very easy. I installed it already, so for Mac users anyway, everything is easy. Install,
Yeah.
invoke it, and here you go.
Windows, it's a simple installation. I just installed on a Windows machine. It's as easy as it is for Mac.
And the first question I asked you was what packages there are. Packages which are enhancing the functionality, like plugins in Apex.
Yeah.
And there are
So-
packages, and I asked you which packages should I install as a SQL developer, and you marked a couple of them, and they are going in here, right?
Kind of. That's one way to look at it. So packages it's very much like Apex plugins, where Apex has two types of plugins. They have built-in plugins, so every item, every object in Apex, or interactive grid, or a simple page item is an Apex plugin. It's just built by Oracle. And then you have community developed plugins. So it's the same thing with packages. You have built-in from Atom and then community developed. So you can look at the packages up there, but that's usually not where people go to actually view all their packages. So if you go back into Atom and you go into preferences.
Okay, hold on, I saw that my video stopped. I go to Atom and preferences.
So in Windows, I think it's Tools Preferences for those that are watching in Windows. And here you can do a lot of settings. I'm not going to get into that, but the key thing is packages on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And this is the full list of packages, and you see while it's loading up, it's got a list of it subcategorizes them. So community packages are ones that you installed that are pretty much open source, run by the community. And then if you scroll down a bit, you'll see that it breaks it down into core packages are built in from the Atom team, and we don't need to get into all those, but that's the differences. And you can settings on all of them, or the ones that have, so you can configure everything, whether it's a core package or a community built package.
Okay, you go to settings inside a package. Which the core packages are all installed already, isn't it?
That's correct.
Okay.
You can see you can disable them. It's exactly like everything else. It's built by Atom essentially.
Okay, and when I am looking for a new package, is there an app store or something, a package store where I can?
Yeah, so there's a package store. If you actually go on the Atom website, it's there, but there's also right in there on the left side, you see install on the menu. Click there. And then you can search for packages, and they have the featured packages. So it's almost like a mini app store for Atom packages. And you can just search, you can type in Oracle right now and see what's out there. And it's also like an NPM thing as well. There's different ways of looking at it.
What? What is it?
Language Oracle.
Yeah, what did you say? It's almost like a what? NTM?
It's like NPM for those Node.js.
NPM like Node.js, this Node Package Manager or something?
That's correct.
Okay, but
So
you need
this
to,
is
but
where
you basically,
you
we still have the same problem. You need to know which packages you should use or install, and so you need to get good suggestions, right?
Yeah, and there's plenty of blog posts out there of who's installed what. I think if you just Google Oracle, Atom plugins.
You don't get anywhere with 150 blog posts and everybody is suggesting something. What are you suggesting? You are the expert there, and you're an Oracle Apex developer. So let's see what you have installed and tell us why and how
I can show you some. We're not going to, just due to time, I don't want to spend too much time on that. Let me share my screen.
Okay, I stop it here.
Okay, you've got to stop sharing.
Yeah, I did.
It's open. Okay, so you can see my entire screen?
Yep.
Okay, so these are all the packages I've got. I've got 53, and that's why I don't want to spend the time of going through them all. But to me, some of the important ones are all Oracle ones. So autocomplete Oracle, Trent's running that.
What does it do? One sentence, what does it do? It's from Trent, so it can't be bad, but what does it do?
It does, well, it says right there, code completions for Oracle PL SQL. So I think he's injected some of the core library. It's almost like snippets.
Okay.
I believe that's it. Build Oracle is if you want to compile directly from Atom, you can. And this helps out.
You're going to show us this, right?
I won't compile today because I don't think I have that set up on my demo project here. Code Peak, I'm going to talk about this after because it doesn't work how we want it to do in Oracle. We'll come back to that, but that's a really cool feature. And I mean, there's things like file icons. So if you see on the left-hand side, I've got a database here, a GitHub icon there, Markdown. It puts nice little icons in there. Highlight line's nice, so it highlights the current line I'm on. And then, it just depends on what's out there. And the best way to follow some of these things is just follow Twitter and see what other developers are doing.
Nobody's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other, or you look, the other way is you go into the install thing and then see what the feature packages are.
Yeah, but now
This is no different than the Apple App Store.
If you just a regular, so Martin, you're not a freak like you, right? You're just a regular Apex PL SQL developer, and you use Notepad++ for 20 years now, something. And now somebody come up and say, hey, there are a new editor out there, and it's much better, and you should use this. Nobody will follow any Twitter and blog posts. So you need to tell us these are the 10 packages you will need and find useful as a PL/SQL Apex developer. So,
Well, I'm going to have to blog about that because I don't even, as you saw, I have 53 packages. I can't spend the time because I don't know what they all do off the top of my head now. They're so integrated in how I work. And some of them I don't use right now, and I should clean them up because I don't absolutely need them.
So, but the most important things are
The most important ones I have are Language Oracle and Autocomplete Oracle.
Oh,
These
okay.
two. Autocomplete Oracle, Language Oracle, probably the two biggest ones.
Language Oracle means text syntax highlighting for Oracle, or what does it do?
Yeah, this has, so I think he's gone and scraped the APIs for the main public synonyms, so like two-car or DBMS output or something like that. And then Language Oracle, I forget what that does. So the nice thing is you can just click on these links and it brings you right to the page. Ooh. So it adds syntax highlighting.
See, this is what I thought it does.
Yeah. The implement settings, what are your options? Yeah, there's a lot of things that most people just use the default things in here.
Okay, but these are the most important packages, and you can look for other things. But you have regular syntax highlighting for all other stuff like JavaScript or CSS.
Yeah, that's pretty much built in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you see? You know? Okay, this is what I'm using all the time.
I use Pretty JSON a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you deal with a lot of RESTful services and you get it will just prettify it. So if you have like that condensed JSON and you want to expand it, it's very helpful. So I use that. There's also another prettifier, but I just use Pretty JSON. It's worked really well for me.
So, for example, this Pretty JSON. So you load a JSON file into the editor. Is this Pretty JSON already jumping in and do something with it, or do you have to do you have a shortcut, keyboard shortcut, or?
Yeah. So let's go over that name. Martin. Right. So this is your standard. This is very basic JSON structure. Name here. And so if you want to prettify it, we'll take a step back. There's something called the command palette in Atom, and this is the most important.
What? I didn't understand that. A command what?
Command palette.
Palette.
And it's where to trigger everything. So on my Mac, it's Command-Shift-P. If you Google it, you'll find the shortcuts for Windows or Mac. It's in every Atom 101. If you spend 2 minutes on Google, you will find this in any 101 training.
Command Shift what? Command Shift?
Command-Shift-P.
What do you mean by key?
P as in Peter.
P. Okay, I understood. P. Okay. And what does this do? What does this invoke? This is something like a.
This shows you every single option you have to do. So the nice thing is you don't have to remember any shortcuts because it's a self-training thing. Unlike a lot of other apps where you have to go and scroll through the menu to see it, they've completely rethought about how to do this. And I like this. I think every app should have this, where it has every option. So if I had actually gone in and gone view or find or packages, this is the entire menu all in one.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so here I can just type pretty. Oops. Let me just go pretty. And here I can see every single option I want. And I can select pretty JSON prettified. Now, there's no shortcuts I've enabled for this. So normally you'll see it, and I'll show you that in a minute. But if I click on it, it now makes it all nice. And this wasn't maybe the best demo because there's only one name value pair.
Sure, but we get the idea.
Yeah, and so here's something that a lot of people do is they need to upper or lowercase something.
Yeah.
So I know the shortcuts, but if you don't, Command-Shift-P, and we'll just say uppercase, and I can just go uppercase. Now, if I do this over and over again, it may help to know that the real shortcuts are Command-K and then Command-U. but everyone's different, right? That's why I don't want people just saying, hey, I'm going to memorize this from this video. You may configure things differently depending on what your situation is, and keyboard mappings have. So all you have to remember is Command Shift P, and then you type in everything. And that's why I usually don't go up here and scroll through the packages to see. Some people will go up here and then search for pretty JSON and then say, I'm going to minify this, which you could, but you have to know exactly what you're looking for. Rather than here, you could just go minify, and then you'll see all the different options.
Speaking of minifying or the opposite, what is the opposite? Extracting or something?
Expanding.
Expanding things. Do we have a plugin for that saying I have a JavaScript code, I don't want to minify it and put it on the server?
I think they have a lint. You could probably find it. It's not hard. I mean, if you go into Atom Preferences, you could probably just search for it. I don't use that. If you really want to do that, you should probably just use Apex Nitro because it will do it all for you. I usually don't do that much. Minify. So here I could install this one. And it has it. I would probably read up and just see what the differences are. This is pretty popular, close to 50,000.
Yeah.
I'd read up and see what it does.
Okay,
but I'm not going to install it.
Okay, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so I want to get into the meat and potatoes of why this is so powerful. And I'm gonna take a step back, and this is probably how you develop. And I'm going to show you how you can develop, right? Because it's important to understand where you're going from to where you're going to. So let's take a very basic situation where you've got, we'll do the M table, right? Star from M. We've all seen this before, or you've seen it at least. And most people will write a API on top of employees, right? So you want to, let's say, insert a new employee. And yes, there's tabbies. I'm going to take all of that out of discussion. But what most people do is they'll see, okay, I've got ename, ename, job, manager, hire date, salary, and all these columns. And then they'll open a new tab for the connection. And they'll probably do create or replace procedure, insert M. And then they'll probably go something like this. If you're a bit enhanced, you'll describe the employee table. Let me know if any of this is not what you do. And then here you'll have to go. You highlight all this, and I know SQL Developer has multi-column edit. I don't even know what the columns are, but most people go something like this. You'll see why I'm so slow because I don't do this every time. Right, this is what you do, and you go on, and then you go here, you'll put a P variable here, and then you'll hit end. Oops. And I've been using another Windows machine, so my keyboard shortcuts are all screwy right now, because I'm switching between the two. And then you'll do in of no type. And you just repeat this over and over again. Is that what you normally do?
Yeah, if I have to do PL SQL, yes.
If you have, I mean, it's very common, and there's history behind here because this was the only way. And again, SQL Developer does have multi-column editing, and I'll show what that is in a second. But most people do it like this, and this is just ludicrous on how much time this is taking. As you can see, I've had a couple of missed shortcuts, and they do all this same stuff over and over again. But let's just, and the other part is they actually compile it directly in the database. And so if you go and you change that, and I'm changing that at the same time, we're just going to overwrite our changes, so it's lost. So let's do something entirely different though. And this will show the power of Atom. I'm going to go, I'll just create this here. I'll do a new file, and let's just call it. Insert, we'll just call it the same thing, insert m dot pkb. It's not a package, but it will mimic it. And we'll do this in a multi-step thing. So let's just look at our table again. If we wanted to create the exact same thing, I do the describe. I'm just going to copy and paste. And so here, what I'll do is create or replace procedure, insert M. And here, I'll pass in all these things. But the difference now is multi-column editing, I can do so much more. So I'm just hitting, for me, it's Control Shift up and down. Everyone has different shortcuts here, so you have to Google what that is to you. And I can do P like that. I'm going to lowercase it. I'm going to go like this.
How did you delete the rest of it?
It's as if you're just on one, pretend you're on one line, and that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
So though it's multi-cursor, I'm not doing anything special. Pretend I'm just on the top line. Right? Oh, it's not that. It's in, and then I do emp dot here, type, comma, and then I'm done. And here.
Stop. How did you generate the different names?
I copied right here. I copied from the describe.
Yeah, I know, but you started to write. Can you go back to Adam?
Yeah.
And then you started to write m dot, and then suddenly in the first.
So again, pretend I'm on one line. So let's take a step back.
Yeah.
I have this.
Understand.
What I did is I went here and
know.
I just copied this. So
you copied this.
One line, right?
Okay.
So I hit Control C in Windows or Command.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
So think one line, you're just replicating it over all the lines. And so now I just do in, emp, and then since I'm working on that one line concept, I hit Command V.
Okay.
And that's the big difference. So now I took something that was, I'd probably still be doing it, and I did it in a few seconds. And here, let's say I want to insert into M. Here's another cool thing is I want to explicitly define all these values. So normally people, what they do is they copy these values, they go through and then they make a comma delimited list, right? They'll go like this and then hit delete, space it out, comma. You've probably done this before if you've done SQL development. And I'll show you a different way of doing it. So if we just copy this, I can do here, I'll just bring it back, I'll do multi-column select, delete it, comma, space, delete, and
Stop. How did you get this back to one step back?
Yeah.
One step back.
This?
Yes. What did you do now? Okay, from there.
So okay, imagine you're on one line, right? And now all I hit was the delete key. And you can have multi-cursors on the same line. It doesn't matter where. But it all does the same action on all the lines. And here now I removed the multi-cursor. I select the entire line. I go my shortcut to lowercase, Control X like you normally do. And there I have my insert statement.
Okay, that's
and then
good.
Values, if I have caps locks on. Values, here I could just do the exact same thing. I multi-select, copy, paste.
How did you multi-select now? Okay, yeah.
I did it. So it's Control Shift down. There's different ways.
I know, but then you just mark the next word, and it's different in every line, right? So that because I understand that the multi-line concept is working, but that you also can copy or mark different lengths of word. You just mark one word, right?
Yeah, but think of it as a cursor in multiple positions at the same. So imagine you just did. I think Notepad++ has this where it has macros where you can just do the same thing over and over again. So you record a macro and then you go here and saying replay the macro over and over. That's another way of looking at what it does. So think multi-cursor. That's what it is. It's as if you were typing. It's right now, if I did this, it's as if I had 3 keyboards all at the same time and we type the exact same thing at the same time. That's what it is. And you can also, you can cherry pick. I just hit the command, I hold down on command and you can cherry pick where you want those cursors to. But it will perform the exact same action on all those cursors. So this is probably what I do. And here you can just do like that. Again, as if you're on one line, and right there I've got my insert statement. And I would type in end, and that's it.
Cool.
So you've taken something, because I just actually recently had a discussion with someone that they said they love using the Apex wizards to do the automatic DML, which I get. There's a lot of value for business users to do that, but on more intense applications that have a lot of business logic, you can't do that, because every time you insert, you usually have to do a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah,
and so if you have a bunch of Apex page items, it's the exact same concept. You can create your own procedures, and it's just as quick to do the automatic DML as this.
Do we also have something like snippets in SQL Developer, or that you save some?
Okay, so excellent question. You do have a snippet engine in here. I'm not a snippet expert from the Atom editor, and the reason why is I use 3 primarily different editors. I use Atom, I use Microsoft Visual Studio Code, and because this is a newer product from Microsoft. It's entirely free. It's very similar to Atom, but they all have their pros and cons. I am only going to use this because I'm going to show you something after. And then I also use SQL Developer sometimes too. I use all 3 of them. And so if I personally, if I invested time and effort into snippets on Atom, I would lose those as I cross over the different applications. And to me, that would be a waste of investment of time, because then I'd spend all the time here and then I have to replicate it. SQL Developer has snippets, it's great. Microsoft Visual Studio Code has snippets, they're all good. But for me, that's not what makes sense, because I use all the different editors. So what I've got a tool here that's called a text expander, or the concept of the tool is called text expander. So if you're going to Google one for yourself, Google text expanders. I use this one called atext. There's a whole bunch of different ones. I use this for various reasons. And here, I'll just show you what I've got. I've got a bunch of different snippets here. And I've pre-seeded them. So for instance, I don't even type my own name. I just, when I have to type my name for commenting, I just might me. And I prefix all my Oracle things for O. And the reason why I do that is because, for instance, a comment in JavaScript is very different than a comment in Oracle of how you comment it. And I'll show you that in a second. So I've got things, for instance, that procedure. I want to create a procedure. This is what a procedure looks like for me. And you can see I've got these name things. So I'll show you what all that is, but I've spent the time and effort to actually mark this up. And I'll just show you reason why you saw me struggling typing create or replace procedure, because I usually just type proc and it pops up. So I type in the procedure name, let's call it insert M. And you notice that it auto-filled this part out. Like if you look in the bottom right corner here, you'll see that things change as I type along.
So just like bind variables or variables.
Exactly. And so I just click OK, and there it is. Now this makes sense to me, right? Everyone has a different structure of what they use, but this makes sense to me. And then things like, for instance, I do a comment, I'll write to do. And this is what comments look like to me, because most comments you should tag your name on so you know who wrote it. And I'll just write whatever. So it's always shortcuts of things like that. And even in SQL Developer, so this is why I use multi-system, the one that works on all systems is I want to do a select statement. And most of the time you write select star from my table where, and you start doing that. When you do it over and over, it's just the same repetitive work. So I write select or SEL, and here I can do, let's say, the M table. And then most of my where statements always look like, I'll show you, I type OWHE, and that's how I normally write my where statements. So now a lot of people have asked me when I show them this, they're like, can I copy your stuff? And I usually push back, Jürgen, because I know you're going to ask me for this. A, because I use a different text expander than different people, and B, do what makes sense to you. What makes sense to me is very different than what makes sense to you. But you have to identify things that you constantly do.
Martin, one question to the text expander. So is this guy listening to your keyboard all the time?
Yes.
And So basically, it also monitors if you insert some passwords. Is this not a problem, a security problem?
That's a good question. I don't know if you can exclude certain applications.
Especially if you, I don't know, a lot of them are cloud-based and with the benefit that you can use it on all machines.
Yeah, so I don't have, this one doesn't provide that. And again, there's a whole bunch of them, especially for Mac. For Windows, there's only Phrase Express, really, that's good. But for Mac, there's a whole bunch. I just sync my configuration essentially to Dropbox in this case, but I don't do, it doesn't sync, from my understanding, it doesn't sync all the things back and forth. And as for passwords, you can see I don't say, it looks for your keyboard. So if you use a password manager and you copy and paste, it's not going to read it.
Sure, but most of the time I'm typing in keyboard my passwords.
Why? That's ridiculous.
Because I have.
You're telling me about security flaws? That's a huge security flaw.
I know.
You probably only have 5
but
passwords.
I have the easy passwords for not important.
That's security flaw right there. Boom. So you want to talk about a bigger security flaw, Jürgen? You just exposed yourself to a much bigger
I know, but I just want to know. So these guys are listening to all your keyboard inputs then.
Yeah.
And you have to trust the guys that they don't send it home.
Yep. You have to trust that SQL Developer doesn't listen to your passwords.
Yeah, but I know Chris, so I trust him.
Yeah. No, I mean, you have to trust every single application that is receiving your input. You have to trust, and it's a very good point, right? You don't want Bob's or Sally's text expander who looks really sketchy. You want to find one that's very community driven or community encourages. And at the end of the day, if someone's listening, yes, absolutely, there's nothing stopping. But I can say that about a lot of my applications I have.
Okay, so the Atom has snippets, but you say better use this text expander. You can use it all over the place, and it's is it also can you also use it in a mail? You can use it everywhere then.
So I mean, I'm gonna go just to a different text expander. I'm not gonna open up my personal mail on this recording, but I'm in different text editor. It doesn't matter if I'm in mail, anything, and if I type in, let's say the same thing, OPROC, it will do the exact same stuff, right? For some reason, Visual Studio Code's editing things different. I've got to figure out what's going on here, but you'll have to trust me that it outputted the same stuff. I think it's just how the spacing's done, but a lot of times, for instance, I join WebEx, and it will ask me saying, what's your name, what's your email address? And when you're in a rush, like you leave one meeting, go to another, it actually takes time. So I rarely write my name. I just write MD dot, and then I'll write IMDE for my email address. So I use these in the browser all the time. And if I want my full name, I write MGD dot, and this is what I determined that I wanted it. Everyone has different things, so I use it in the browser all the time. So it's very helpful, not just in your programming life, but even sometimes in your day-to-day life if you have a lot of different things.
Agree.
And for instance, I have a VirtualBox that I connect to, and when I want to do SQL CL commands, I never remember the syntax of like username, password, port, database you connect to on that. So in command line, I just write, SQL, that's my thing, and this is how I connect to one of my test databases most of the time. So it's very simple. And I can show this on the podcast because you can see there's no secret passwords or anything. So I'm not going to expose client stuff I won't put in there due to it's not the right place. But I will put that in for my personal stuff because it's really easy. So there, you just be creative of what do you do repetitive over and over.
I agree.
So I want to show you a couple other things.
Yeah.
I know we've got 15 minutes on this, but that could be very useful for people. So a lot of times, I think as developers, we've got the problem, and this is again something else that Notepad++, SQL Developer don't excel in, and that is, I'm in this this string thing, and let's say you call me up, Jurgen, and you say, hey, I've got a question about, let me just pick up one of those things. The validation package that you're working on. And this is all open source code, so I'm not showing anything that anyone can't do. Normally what you do is you go like this: source, expand, packages, expand, and you find validation. And then you double click on it. And then you scroll through, or let's say you have a problem on isDate. So you'll do find, you type in is_date, and you go through and you say, oh, there's the package that you're talking about, and then you scroll down and actually look at the code. Right? This is very common, I imagine, for you and a lot of developers. So what you can do in Atom is there's shortcuts. So for me, it's Command P, not Command Shift P, Command P, and this automatically opens or lists all the files in your current project, all of them. And so I can just type, you're talking about the validation, I can just type in validation. And you can see I've got 3 different validation files. And I know you're going to talk about this one, so I just type enter on that. And now the nice thing is this one requires one of those Oracle plugins we talked about before. If I hit Command R, this lists all the different procedures that are in my package. So I can go to the isDate right away.
Okay, this command R thing is require a package.
It requires one of the, if we go back into the packages and we type in Oracle, I forget which one it does require, but it requires, I believe, one of these.
Okay.
I don't know it off the top. I think it also requires something called Minimap. I can't remember. Again, I've configured all these things and I don't remember which one triggers what. But it's very, very helpful. And I have to go to Visual Studio Code to show the next functionality because it exists in Atom, but they haven't implemented it properly for Oracle yet. So here, let's just say I'm in, I'm in this package. It doesn't really matter what it does. And let's say I've got a call to osutil.validation.isNumber. And I don't remember what the API is for this. Most of the time what people do, and I'll do it the new way now, I'll just type in validate, and then I'll go to isNumber. It still takes time to go there and see what that is, and also I have to open a new file. There's something called code peeking, where if I right click on this and I can go peek definition. Oh, that's not a good example.
But you're not in Atom anyway anymore, right? So
no, I'm in Visual Studio Code.
So why do you show Visual Studio?
I'll explain that in a second. Let me just go peek definition. Maybe not the best. Let's just try this. I should have prepped this a bit better.
No preparation. That's the
yeah,
real
so
life.
Here you can see I peek and all of a sudden it opened this right there and I can see the definition. I can scroll up and down to see what the code looks like, what the documentation looks like. So it's very, very useful to get to that level of information without even leaving the file. And then I can close it if I want and just continue working, or I can right click, peek definition, and just double click and I'd go right there if I wanted to open. Now, the reason why I showed in Visual Studio is there's the plugins for Oracle and Visual Studio Code work for peek definition or code peek. In Atom, there is a code peeking functionality. However, the way they do it is different than what Oracle expects or how Oracle is programmed. So we submitted a pull request to the developer and we're still waiting for them to accept it. So until that's there, you can really only use code peek in Visual Studio Code rather than Atom. But once they accept the pull request, then we can use it in Atom.
So what package do I need to install then to make this peak in Atom?
In Atom,
Yes.
if you go Preferences, Packages, and you type in, I'll just go to the install section, you type in codes peak, I think it's PEK, get this right, and it's called code peak. And there is, again, a pull request. So we've submitted the patch to there. However, we're still waiting for the developer to accept it. And they've acknowledged our patch. There's something else bigger at a framework level they need to do first before we can get it all working.
Okay, but then it's the same functionality in Atom.
Yeah, it's the exact same functionality when they implement this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very
Speaking
helpful. And these are all just small things that.
But how is this working if I have installed the package and a new version comes out? Am I notified? Is it updated automatically?
In the bottom right corner here where it says 14 files, it will actually say 3 updates or something, and you click on it, and it's too bad, I just updated Atom right before a call. You click update, and it will auto-update everything.
So you have to
go download updates.
But you have to look every once in a while in the packages and see if the update's available, and you say,
No, it notifies you. So in this bottom right corner where you see all these different things,
mm-hmm.
one of them will say you've got 3 updates.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to look, then you click on it, and
mm-hmm.
then you can choose which ones you want, or you can update
mm-hmm.
all. So it notifies you.
Okay. So, Martin, for the end, so you're always complaining that I'm developing in the database.
Yes.
Why?
So that's a huge problem. And we somewhat discussed it before that the problem with that is you're developing in the database, and that locks you in. So just so people know what we're talking about when we talk about developing in the database is you go here into packages, you'll go into, let's say, this validation package, you double click on it, and you start editing and compiling directly in here. There's a couple of problems. One is it locks you in directly into SQL Developer, so you lose a lot of the functionality that everyone else has. So that's a big thing. The worst thing you can do is just copy and paste this, work into here, and then copy and paste back. This is inefficient. The other thing is, if I compile the same package at the same time over you, I'm going to overwrite it.
True.
Now, there are tools. I think Toad has a product with their, what's Toad's SQL Developer thing? It's been a while. But anyways, I know Toad has a product that helps prevent everyone from this locking scheme stuff. You don't need that. It's just way too much overkill. So, and then what you also have to do is, and once this is all done, you have to find some way to extract this into files to actually check it into version control. To me, that's just way too much work for something that the development ecosystem and community has already solved. And when I say development community, it's not just Oracle, it's the entire world of developers. And that's file-based development. And so what you can do is, I'm going to take the exact same package, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it into SQL Developer. And so the nice thing is, just remember that the first line here says public. I can go in now into Atom, open the validation package, go all the way to the top, and just write, this is a new line. And then I save it. And when I'm back in here, you'll see that new line appear. And then you can compile.
Why is this? I don't understand this, how this is working. So SQL Developer is also looking at the file system if anything is changed?
So what you do, and this is a text editor operating system level functionality that all editors pretty much have, is you can open the same editor or file in multiple editors, SQL Developer being one of them, Atom being another, Visual Studio Code, whatever you want. Notepad++ does this too. And you can edit in one, and when you click save, it refreshes in everything else. So that's how that happened. And then let's say I have, I'll just add a new line here. I'll just put, I'll just go, this was in SQL Dev. Because sometimes I develop in SQL Developer when I'm debugging or I just need to fix one small thing.
We're still talking about your developing in SQL Developer on a file, not in a database.
Yes, this is on my file. This code exists on my file system. So if I hit save, you'll notice that it updated over here. And right now, as of now, this code is only in my file system. And then I can hit compile. And that will compile it into into the database. So now it's compiled into the database.
Okay.
And so let's just say you're working on the same package as I am, which is really rare. A lot of people worry about it a lot more than necessary, but it does happen. If you and I overwrite each other's changes, yeah, it sucks for testing, and you usually figure out that you're in conflict very quickly, because when you're testing, your things disappear, or it will say, oh, that package or procedure doesn't exist. But let's just say we do, which is fine. At least you won't lose your changes and I won't lose my changes. And that's a very big thing. You have to say, from a risk perspective, it's almost like you have someone come and do, do some home renos on your house, and then if someone else is also working on the same home renos, it wipes away the changes each time. It can become very expensive if they're erasing each other's work all the time. And so you reduce your risk. And the nice thing too then is you fall under, you get all the file-based system things. So before you actually check in and commit the code, if we open up source tree, and I'm just doing this, I don't want to get into the whole Git discussion, but I just want to show you can use nice standard diff applications where here I can see before I check it in, this is what's changed within the file from the previous version in GitHub or SVN or Bitbucket or whatever version control system you use. So you can use file-based diffing programs to compare A versus B, because what was it before you actually checked it in?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this is very big, because sometimes you make a lot of changes, and let's say you left in a sloppy line of code. You put in some sort of, heaven forbid, you wrote something like this in here. You put in a, we'll put testing, and you did p string. It happens, and I don't recommend doing this whatsoever, but let's say you did that, and you're about to check it in. Now you can see all the changes, and you're like, oh, you usually scan through your changes, that easily comes out that you've done those changes, and you're like, oh, I should probably remove that before checking it in. Where a lot of people don't remember that when you just compile directly.
That's true.
So this is, and now you've got to track your changes. There's so many positives here, and it encourages constant check-in. Whereas when you develop directly in the database, most people just do it at the end of a sprint cycle. They'll just export everything, but they don't have that truly, like, this portion was isolated for this part. Like, usually ticket-based development. So you'll say that I only worked on this part of the code and it was for this ticket. And then you can actually trace through as to which part is for what ticket, and when you need to audit something or do a code review or actually see what did I do a year later, what did I do for that code. So but you don't have to develop all that technology, and there are things people embed into Oracle to get around these issues, but it's ridiculous because it already exists for every other development platform for file-based development.
Okay, so you are saying developing file-based is the way you should do it.
Yes,
and
I'm not saying it, the rest of the world is saying it too.
This is not impressing me. It's enough when you say it. And
yeah, but it's the thing that bothers me is there's like Git Aura or something for Git integrated directly into Oracle. There's all these tools out there to get around the problem that you shouldn't be doing it in the first place.
So the thing is, then you have file-based developing, and everybody has his code. And you cannot, even if you compile it in the database and overwrite it in the database, everybody has still his own version of the code. That's the benefit.
That's correct.
And you
on their own file system.
On your file system, and you can also, you also do more frequent check-ins in your version control system. Is this true?
That's correct. So let me show you why the frequent check-ins are important. So if I go here and blame selected. So this looks a lot nicer in SQL or in SVN, but you can see that for instance, all this code was checked in as part of a certain revision. These five, like 37 to 43. And then this was checked in a different, and you can actually see Yanni check this in. So why did he check it in? So you can actually you can click on it and then see the entire change set. Okay, so he checked it in because these are the changes he made here for this specific, so he's working on ticket 74. And I was working on 78 and 74, for instance. And then here I did these changes as part of 125 and 126 as bug fixes. And this is important because, again, 2 years later, sometimes you come back and you look in your ticketing system like Jira, you come back and saying, hey, I wanted to resolve this ticket. Like, what did I actually do as part of this? Whereas if you did the way you've talked about before at the end of the sprint cycle, and I know you didn't talk about it now, but you and I have talked about it in the past, at the end of the sprint cycle, you take all the code and then you check it into SVN, you lose all this history. You just know what was done as part of version 1.0 or whatever your release cycle is. And then you don't understand what actually solved which problems.
Okay.
You look confused on it.
No, sounds reasonable. I hate it, but because I'm not doing it this way, but I have to admit it's a better approach.
And so I've got to go soon, but a lot of people, when you show them this, their first reaction is, well, I don't want to do it because it's going to take extra time. And they're absolutely right. To learn, for instance, Atom, to do file-based development takes 5 minutes to learn. There is some learning time involved, but the time you save is just dramatic, and all the extra functionalities you get are just immense. To me, this is someone doing horse and buggy versus driving a new car to 2017. You can say you're both going to get there in the same pace, yes, or not the same pace. You're both going to get from destination A to B. It's just one's a lot faster, one's got GPS navigation, one's got air conditioning or heating, depending on where you live and what climate it is right now. But for those that are still saying, no, I'm going to develop in the database, you're pretty much arguing that the horse and buggy is a more efficient way. And you don't want to go get your driver's license and learn how to drive a car. And I'm not one to judge. If you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. But if I'm paying your salary, I'd be very concerned why I'm paying the same salary for you in a horse and buggy when you can pay the same salary for someone who's driving a car.
So don't apply to Martin if you are still
No. From an inside
developing in the database. Don't even try.
We don't judge that on the application.
You can work for him for half the price.
No. We spend time, and just to let you know, internally, when I first joined, we've spent the time to train up our developers. So we don't just go and the wrong thing is just to go throw this all at developers and say, hey, go. We've consciously and always have small little training sessions. We've actually got an onboarding process for new employees to do it. So we've invested as a company, we've invested the time and effort. So we offer more efficient development for our clients, because we don't want our clients paying there while we just sit there and type the same thing. Like we do that insert employee example. There's no point why you should be paying someone to type in all the characters when you can easily do the exact same thing in 5 seconds. And all of that scales. So you have to make sure if you're doing this at your company, you've got some sort of plan. We beta test everything on a couple of developers, and then if we find it really efficient, we'll push it out. And that's what we're doing. For instance, Visual Studio Code, I'm testing it. A couple other people are exploring with it. And if it's really efficient, we'll show it to the rest of the team.
Anything else you want to show in Atom? Would you say, oh, that's a nice feature, you need to look into this?
Explore. Have fun.
Okay then.
All right.
Thanks for the demonstration.
No problem.
So you convinced me that it's more efficient, and we will see if I change my coding style, and I'd at least give it a try and let you know.
It's entirely your call, Jürgen. If you want to still take, and I'm not saying this is an insult, it's more of a joke, but if you still want to run the horse and buggy way, you're going to get to the same destination. There's no question. Just remember that. And it's a dramatic thing, but it's the only thing I can think of that somewhat balances.
Okay, thanks, Martin. I will let you know, and you will see if I'm using it. At least we'll give it Atom Editor a try now. So I need to use one editor anyway, so it's not a big deal to start with that. And looking into this text expander application, that's a good thing, I guess. Having a text expander, not only
text
for
expander is
coding,
a no-brainer.
not only for coding, but for other stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're saving us a lot of time. So
All right, I've got to go for another meeting.
Okay.
Nice talking.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.